We always talk about the number one factor mattering for rookie wide receivers and wide receivers in general being talent. And reception perception is an incredible tool that I use all the time, which basically determines how talented a wide receiver is. If you're a talented wide receiver, you're likely going to be able to overcome things like quarterback play, target competition, landing spot, all of these factors. And no metric carries more weight in my own mind than Matt Harmon's work with reception perception. So basically, in today's video, I wanted to actually have Matt on to discuss the rookie wide receiver class, but he's hella busy this time of the year. He told me he wouldn't have time for it. He dropped 8 profiles of rookie wide receivers this week, and we're going to react to them. All the top names in the 2023 NFL draft. But before we get into it, head on over to flockfantasy.com, the new site. Use that promo code FSE for 30% off and a 2-day free trial. You'll get my rookie rankings, Danny's rookie rankings ahead of your drafts, our dynasty rankings by position, first priority to the dynasty decisions videos that you guys love so much, and you guys can submit teams for that down below in the link in the description. Hit the link down below to check out the new site, scan the QR code on the screen, whatever the case is. And I have to check real quick, make sure I have no bats in the cave. You guys saw that in yesterday's video. I noticed it too. Pretty brutal, but without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you to subscribe to Reception Perception, right? I'm breaking down Matt Harmon's work here. It is behind a paywall. I am going to give you guys a sneak peek. I asked his permission. He said that was totally cool to do so. It's a phenomenal resource, and I don't want to give everything away for free. So make sure if you guys are interested in all the veteran stuff that he does, this is just the rookies, man. He does this with all the veterans as well. It puts in a ton of work. So go support Matt Harmon's work over there at receptionperception.com. So it's been well documented, right? This was the big question for me with Jordan Addison versus Jaxon Smith-Njigba, because to me, those two guys were the top wide receiver prospects in the class. But fellas, I am afraid I am admitting defeat here because JSN's wide receiver one for me now. It was close, right? I said in Jordan Addison's tail of the tape, it was 957.5 to 955. That was the grade differential that I had between those two players. It was 2.5 points. JSN's reception perception profile is much better than Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison is a pristine route runner on tape, and I'm not taking that away from him, but I considered him to be the best route runner in the class, and it looks like the numbers disagree with what Matt Harmon has charted here. 68th percentile against man, that's a fine number. 58th percentile against zone, that's a fine number, but 17th percentile against press is a problem for Jordan Addison, given the size profile that we know he has at 173 pounds, especially when you consider my comparison for him being Devontae Smith. His number was in the 89th percentile coming out of Alabama. So even though he's a slender receiver, he was much better at beating press coverage than Jordan Addison. I had to lower his grade. Point blank simple. He cannot beat press, it looks like, at this point in time. He's got to develop his release package for sure. And also, his 2021 numbers were mostly against the slot. So even though he probably would have graded out better if Matt Harmon had sampled games from 2021, he told me in the DMs that it probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference, given that he was working out of the slot. So if you're an elite route runner like I claimed Jordan Addison to be, you need to be winning at an 80th percentile clip against man and zone coverage. And the numbers he posted were fine, but they're not good enough for given what Jordan Addison's skill set is. He probably would have been a bit better in man and zone in 2021, but for the most part, I do think I was overrating Jordan Addison just a little bit. So as much fun as it's been standing Jordan Addison as my dude, my wide receiver one, I can't take him over JSN anymore. The combine shortcomings, the down 2022 season, coming in at 173 pounds when he could have, potentially packed on some weight and been 180 pounds. And now the reception perception, I'd be in pure take lock if I didn't slide his grade down at this point in time. So like I said, I adjusted the grades from 957.5 for Jordan Addison down to 945. Down taking his ability to beat press and his route running ability. Jaxon Smith-Njigba's grade goes a little bit up in his ability to beat press and his route running ability being now confirmed by Matt Harmon's reception perception. And speaking of JSN, his numbers were outstanding. 86th percentile against man, 62nd percentile against zone, 97th percentile against press. Now, it was a small sample size against press coverage. He was working mostly out of the slot against number 3 corners in 2021 with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave demanding most of the attention. So take the 97th percentile number against press with a grain of salt, but it is extremely encouraging to his ability to potentially work on the outside at the next level, or at least develop into an outside wide receiver at the next level. I already compared him once being his like 99th percentile range of outcomes, turning into CeeDee Lamb. And we saw CeeDee Lamb his rookie season work out of the slot, and eventually he became an outside wide receiver and a very good one at that. So just because he didn't do it in college, JSN, doesn't mean that he can't do it. And that's becoming evident for me with these scores. And of course, you combine that with the 99th percentile agilities that he showcased at the combine. Some of the clips that you guys can see on the screen right now of him winning on the outside despite not getting the ball on those plays. So for me, moving Addison from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2 was the biggest takeaway, bar none, from these reception perception scores. There were some other notable things as well. Quentin Johnston, the consensus wide receiver 3 for most people in this class, is a guy that I just really struggle with, man. The dude's either going to be Brandon Ayuk, who's my comp for him, or he's going to be Rashad Perriman. There's literally no in between. He's either going to be great or he's going to be terrible. Here's the thing with Quentin Johnston. Is he a perfect route runner? No, I did not think that he was a perfect route runner, but I was impressed by his ability to leverage defenders in man coverage. And I think he's very good in man coverage. And it looks like Matt Harmon and I are in lockstep because he posted an 85th percentile number in man coverage. And that is a very good number for a raw player, quote unquote, but 12th percentile against zone coverage. I mean, he obviously needs to get better at that aspect of playing wide receiver. He doesn't necessarily come back to the ball the best way that a wide receiver should if they're going to be a true alpha X wide receiver at the next level. Matt Harmon's biggest concern for Quentin Johnston, along with the fact that he wasn't very good against zone coverage, was how bad he was at the catch point. That's something I noticed as well. He says in the write-up that if he has a fatal flaw, it'll be this. He just flat out is a mess at the catch point, is quote unquote what he said in the write-up here. With drops, his ability to lose contested catch situations despite being 6'3", 210 pounds is a huge problem for a guy of his stature. So that's something he's got to get better at. It's something that we see Chase Claypool struggle with, even despite his size as well. Some guys just don't have it, man. Like some guys don't have that dog mentality, that my ball, not your ball type of mentality. And Quentin Johnston absolutely needs to get better in that area. And to be honest, it's a hard thing to overcome. To me, it seems instinctual for certain players. And I don't love that Quentin Johnston really needs to develop in that area of the game. So those were the top 3 wide receivers. Then we get into like the tier 2 consensus wide receivers, Josh Downs, Zay Flowers, Jalin Hyatt, and some of these other dudes. Man, Josh Downs absolutely crushed his reception perception, dude. Holy shit. 87th percentile mark against man coverage, 86th percentile mark against press coverage, 59th percentile against zone. This is comparable to what Elijah Moore posted coming out of Ole Miss. Downs, he has listed here in the write-up as the best contested catch wide receiver in the entire class, despite being 5'9", 171 pounds. So he's not just saying for a small receiver, he was the best contested catch wide receiver. He's saying for any receiver, he was the best contested catch wide receiver. So Josh Downs, man, I'm very excited to grade him. I have not dug into his tape yet. He is the next player that I'm going to dig into. So Josh Downs, great knowing that he has a awesome reception perception profile, and obviously the analytics very much agree that he's a good receiver as well with the target share and the age adjusted production, early declare stuff. All that is well and good. Zay Flowers, this was a really notable one as well. Flowers has a solid profile here, and I think he's firmly in the conversation for wide receiver 3 with Quentin Johnston, with Josh Downs once I grade him. Matt Harmon actually comps him to Deontay Johnson when he was coming out of Toledo. Despite having a slot type of body, right? Deontay Johnson, 5'10", 180 pounds. Zay Flowers, more of 5'9", 182 pounds is what I think he officially weighed in at. Both guys can win on the outside, which is really encouraging. And Zay Flowers posted very good numbers, 74th percentile against man, 79th percentile against press, 59th percentile against zone. So very good news for Zay Flowers. I had a little bit of concern when I was grading him on his ability to win consistently, like just on a man coverage, like route running basis. It looked like more so an athlete playing wide receiver when I watched him. But the more I dig into his film and the more I see other people talk about him and break down his film, the more I'm starting to think that all the tools are there for him to develop more as a route runner. And I have less concern in that area than I initially did when I was watching Zay Flowers. So big time takeaway there for me is Zay Flowers is starting to check a lot of boxes. Outside of not being an early declare, it looks like he is he's going to be well on his way to a first round wide receiver, a guy that we need to consider at the tail end of first round rookie drafts as well. Jalin Hyatt is the last of these first round ish wide receivers that I think are firmly in like the tier 2. I think it's frankly hilarious what his reception perception profile looks like, because he basically only won at an above average rate on 9 balls, which is hilarious because he's a 4-4 athlete. A lot of people, their biggest knock on Jalin Hyatt is that he only wins downfield. He's only a deep ball receiver. He's going to go high in the draft regardless because he's got speed. He's got that skill set. He's a great athlete, but I'm probably going to let my league mates draft this guy because he's looking kind of like, I don't even know who. Like, Matt Harmon comps him to Will Fuller in the write-up. I think that would be a very high range of outcomes for Jalin Hyatt, because Will Fuller developed into like more of a complete receiver, whereas Jalin Hyatt I view as more of like a DJ Chark type of guy, where he's pretty much just a downfield guy, not much more than that. And that gives me a little bit of cause for concern. But the draft capital will probably be there, and he's a guy that we definitely still have to consider probably in the early second round of rookie drafts, but I would probably let my league mates draft him. And he also wrote up his teammates Cedric Tillman and Jonathan Mingo of Ole Miss, but nothing really exciting showcased from those two. They were pretty much like 30th percentile across the board in most of those metrics. I'm pretty much of the belief that this wide receiver class is not good. Outside of Jordan Addison, Jaxon Smith and Njigba, Quentin Johnston, if he can figure out his hands, Zay Flowers and Josh Downs, and then Jalin Hyatt if you need a deep threat. I'm pretty much just uninterested in the rest of the wide receivers in this class. Kayshon Boutte could have been in that conversation, but he's absolutely bombed the pre-draft process, so he's starting to slide out of favor, I think, for me and for NFL teams if the draft capital isn't there. So I'm not really interested in Cedric Tillman and Jonathan Mingo and Rashee Rice and some of these dudes. I'm going to go watch them and grade them for sure on a couple games. And if anybody pops out, I'll let you guys know. But for me, I'm not seeing a lot of depth in this wide receiver class outside of the big 5, big 6 names that we know of. So that is the recap of the reception perception drop. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, make sure to check out Matt Harmon's work. I would not be showcasing it if I didn't believe in it 100%. This is the best way to evaluate wide receivers' route running ability that we have. He charts every route. He charts every game. He watches these guys and compares their success rate on certain routes versus other historical wide receivers. He's been doing this since like 2014. So he's got a big database. So these percentile numbers carry a lot of weight for me. So definitely go check out Matt Harmon's work. Check out everything we're doing over at flockfantasy.com. Just released a new Dynasty 101 video talking about how to make startup trades effectively. So if you guys want to check that video out, that will not be available on the YouTube channel for another couple of months after the draft. We'll release a couple of those. But if you want early access to it, go check out the new site, flockfantasy.com. Scan the QR code on the screen if you guys want access to that, or hit the link down below in the description for a 2-day free trial, 30% off, 6 months free when you sign up annually. So with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.